Okay, comrade. The Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff here. Tune in and listen to the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Right there, your stinking head right off your body. Je to it.
Well, I'll tell you, the place where you got noticed the most, you couldn't walk down the street without being noticed, was in Memphis when I wrestled for the USWA, because USWA TV was the #1 rated television show in the entire Memphis area. And I'm talking prime time, midday. It drew more ratings than like Seinfeld at the time. I mean, it was like a huge show. You literally couldn't go. I mean, I know this sounds funny because we don't have them up here. You couldn't go to the Piggly Wiggly, which is a grocery store, or the Kroger without someone going, "Oh my God, you're the guy from Saturday Morning Wrestling. I love you guys." You know, so. You know, the global thing was the beginning of that, but then when we went to USWA, man, it was really the first time we got recognized, like, all over the place, in the shopping mall and strip club, the restaurants. It was a crazy time, man. It felt good to know that you're working hard towards something and people actually, because when you're doing indies, you don't get that kind of gratification. You know, people don't. You know, you're walking down the street, they don't like, "Yo, hey, Axel, what's up?" But when you're on TV, it's a whole different animal. You know, it's an awesome feeling.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Axel F. and Rotten is on our show this evening. You know what? You made a really interesting comment about hardcore wrestling, Axel, and talking about how I think, you know, we talked to Dylan Summers several months back and talked about hardcore.
Love that guy, by the way. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
He's a great guy. We talked baseball after the show, I think.
Yeah. Dylan is so laid back, man. Working a million times and never hurt each other, but we made it look like the bloodiest thing in the world. I love that guy.
That's the whole point. I mean, nobody, he said it, nobody seeks, unless you just have a death wish, to become a hardcore wrestler. I mean, people who know your wrestling style, Axel, know you know how to wrestle. ECW had Chris Benoit in there. They had Eddie Guerrero in there. Dean Malenko was in there. I mean, guys who could wrestle. It wasn't just all hardcore wrestling, but, you know.
Well, that's what I say. If you go take a chance, if you take a chance and look back at, like, me against Rob Van Dam, there was no chairs, no tables, and nothing. It was a great match. You go back and you watch, WrestlePalooza 98, Balls and Axel versus Candido and Lance Storm. Great tag team match, no tables, chairs involved, nothing. There's matches with us against via Balls against the FBI that were just straight up old school Southern style wrestling matches. So, you know, I have abided myself that I will always be known as, you know, a hardcore wrestler, and that's fine. And just as a quick plug, what is today? Is today the last day of June?
Today's the last day of June.
So tomorrow will mark the 20th anniversary of the first ever Taipei Death Match ever. So,
oh, wow.
July 1st, 1995, Axel versus Ian Rodden in the ECW arena, first ever Taipei Death Match. So, in August, they're doing a tribute. I can't remember. I know Matt Tremont is in the match, and I can't remember who he's wrestling, but Ian is going to be the special referee. And with, you know, my health willing, you know, I hopefully will be able to be there and do something, even if it's just timekeeper or ring announcer for the match, just to commemorate, you know, the 20th anniversary of the Taipei Death Match, which, you know, has gone down in history. Let's face it, it's been 20 years and people still talk about it. So I was talking to Raven a couple days ago, and he said, you know, you guys made wrestling history. He said, think about it. He goes, people talk about the Taipei Death Match. They talk about the time that Raven, you know, that I crucified the Sandman. He goes, you know, they talk about certain things that made history in ECW. And he goes, you know, talk about guys like, let's just bring up, I don't know, the Nasty Boys. He goes, bring up something that the Nasty Boys did 20 years ago that you remember. And he was like, well, nothing. He goes, exactly. He said, so you made wrestling history. So, you know, it's been 20 years, you know, and I'm going to give a cheap plug because, you know, like ProWrestlingTees.com has, you know, the Thai Fake Deathmatch shirt on there as well as the one that Chad did, you know, so it's, you know, I always push people to buy a T-shirt, take a picture of yourself wearing the T-shirt, send it to me on my Twitter, which is @AxelRotDCW, and I will post it because it also is going toward help my medical fund. So, you know, anybody out there that wants a cool T-shirt, you know, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/AxelRod and get that 20th anniversary Thai Fake Deathmatch, or get the cartoon Chad Angle shirt, or get the Axel F. and Rotten shirt. They're all there available, you know, so definitely, I'll be known as a deathmatch wrestler, a hardcore guy. You know, that's what I'm known for. But, you know, those that know, like I said, guys like Terry Funk, Shane Douglas, Raven, Dusty, God rest his soul, they know that I can work, and they know Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, all those guys that I stepped in the ring with, you know, because long before ECW, I was just out there wrestling. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it doesn't hurt that, you know, at least, like Raven said, you know, and I agree, he goes, at least you'll go down in history for something. He goes, think of all the guys that lace up the boots that no one will ever remember.
And, you know, the whole point I wanted to make with that, Axel, is, you know what? There's a place for everything in wrestling. Yes, there's place for comedy in wrestling. There's place for, you know, the ladies in wrestling. There's place for scientific matches. And there's a place for hardcore wrestling. And, you know, you get a lot of people who say, well, the hardcore wrestlers, they can't work. I say that's a bunch of crap, for number one. If you know your history, you know these guys can work. Maybe they get pigeonholed by promoters, and maybe your lot in life was not, your dream wasn't to get in the ring, I'm going to be a hardcore wrestler. But you know what? Once the bell rang and you guys, you know, the lights were on and everybody was cheering, even in the hardcore match, what did it feel like, Axel?
Well, you know, the thing is, if you watch, like, the Thai Fake Death match or the barbed wire baseball bat matches that Ian and I did, we still worked them with ring psychology. Ian was the heel, I was the baby face. He always got heat on me. I always made a comeback. We didn't just go out there. I think this is my one qualm that I have with the hardcore deathmatch wrestling now, is guys just go out there and arbitrarily just start hitting each other with, like, light tubes and weed whackers and midgets wrapped in barbed wire, and, you know, they just don't, there's no story there. See, Ian and I were a tag team for years. We broke up. There was a history. The history was we were quote-unquote brothers that hated each other so much for losing that match that we were willing to kill each other, you know, to prove who the better brother was. So there was a storyline there. I just don't like, unless you're doing something like a King of the Death match tournament or something like that where every match is a death match. You know, when guys go out there and just start beating each other up, you know, with glass tubes and you know, the one thing that blows my mind is guys sticking syringes, you know, in their mouth, and you know, I've been guilty of this, using a staple gun, you know, a staple gun to dollar bill to Ian's tongue before. So, but again, we had a feud, you know, we had a hatred built up toward each other, quote unquote, which some of it was a shoot. We actually weren't there. There were times we worked each other where we weren't getting along, and we would actually, you know, things were a little more smug than usual. But I just don't like the guys that go out there for no apparent reason and kill each other. You know, yes, there's a place for hardcore wrestling. Yes, there's a place for scientific wrestling. There's a place for comedy. You know, and I've done it all. I love doing comedy. Watch some of the matches with the FBI. Tracy Smothers and I always do comedy in our matches.
Tracy Smothers is the best.
I love Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers is one of the greatest talents of all time. I met him for the first time in WCW, like back in 1990. You know, I don't know, 19 or whatever. And him and Steve Armstrong, you know, let me sit at the table with them, and, you know, just started talking and hanging. And, ever since. And what people don't know about Tracy is he's also one of them guys you don't want to mess with, because Tracy Smothers can kick your ass. He's the real deal. I mean, he's not, fun and he's all fun and games. But I've seen another side of Tracy that I don't think a lot of people want to see. He's a true badass.
One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, though.